Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Editor Clint Griffiths coming to you from our studios in northern Indiana for today's Farm Journal Live. We've got AgriTalk's very own Chip Flory. And, Chip, tell us what we've been missing today. There's been some pretty big things happening today. And we've got Kevin Ross, obviously NCGA president, joining us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. There's lots going on. I want to get Kevin's take on some of these things that are happening. But first, Kevin, how's things looking out there in Western Iowa?
Yeah, looking like harvest is around the corner right now. We have been awful dry. I think we've talked about that throughout the growing season, and things are just finally getting started up around home. Gonna see what these early yields do. Starting to see a few plot checks come back, but man, it's upon us, I believe.
Yeah, that corn crop. Everybody's got a lot of questions about that, and obviously you're going to be focused on that, but I know you're a soybean producer as well. That bean crop, it's hard to go through in August like that bean crop went through and come out with a big yield on the other end, isn't it?
Absolutely. August rains mean so much to beans, and we'll see how they come out here. I know early stuff on our own beans that we were looking at looked like there was decent pod counts, but just small beans. And even with last week's rains, very few beans I think we're able to take advantage of those. So we'll see what comes out on these yields here pretty soon.
Gotcha. Hey, Kevin, how fast do you think it'll be before you get rolling in your area there?
A lot of guys are probably going to start here towards the tail end of this week or definitely next week. If most folks aren't rolling by the middle of next week, I'll be shocked. I think a lot of guys kind of targeting that Monday time frame to at least start getting something knocked out.
All right, Kevin, we got good news yesterday on those gap year waivers. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, we did. Real good news. Glad to hear. Glad to hear this out of the administration, or at least out of EPA, denying those waivers, and just something that, man, we've been fighting this fight for quite a while. And I got to thank my Senator Ernst for all her efforts on this thing, and her conversations internally with the administration to make sure that we got the right outcome on this thing. And we still got to see them apply it to a few others that are there, but they have to go through the same process these other ones that already been through before they can rule on those. But I don't see any reason that they wouldn't rule the same way on those extra 14 that are sitting there.
Yeah, those 14, I was just going to ask, there's no reason to anticipate any other outcome on the remaining 14 of those gap year waivers, is there?
There absolutely is not. Our statement on NCGA maybe felt a little bit reserved yesterday because of that, though. Just want to make sure that these things get done and handled in the same way. But no reason to make you think that they shouldn't. Really, this should set precedent for those, and I think we can just about put this issue behind us. But sadly, it was got us almost back to square one where we were at from the 10th Circuit decision, and either way, it took some more time, and darn oil guys found a way to delay it even further, but we've got around it now finally, I think, and are able to move on.
Okay, so the rejection of those gap year waivers, and I'm with you, Kevin. I'm anticipating that the remaining 14 of those gap year waivers are also going to be rejected. But doesn't that mean now that the refiners cannot string together enough years? So the 2019 waiver requests, the 2020 waiver requests, and there's a pile of them out there. Shouldn't that push them to the sideline too?
Yeah, I want to say, what is there, 30 some of those sitting there too? I mean, it's a chunk, but in theory, yes, that makes complete sense. It's always interesting to see what kind of workarounds they'll try to figure out from the next step. But I got to believe that this was definitely a big sign, from the administration and the EPA saying this is basically the end of this issue. And if that's the case, then I'm extremely happy to have this one behind us. And there's only a couple of those very small refineries then that would have a chance at qualifying for those that would have that continuation. And if that's the case, we can live with that. That's applying the law like it's supposed to be.
Yeah, dude, I can't imagine there being anybody happier than you over this, that it's coming to a close.
Yeah, it was, it's interesting to see how this road is taken. And obviously we've done countless, interviews and discussions on this thing, whether it's through media or at on the Hill itself and in the administration, and talking to our own champions there in DC as well. But and talking to farmers, letting them understand and having people understand what the impact of this thing has been. So we've talked about this thing up and down, and really from last over a year ago, last summer, and having that chance to speak with the president there at Southern Iowa Renewable Energy, or Southwest Iowa Renewable Energy there. That was certainly a chance to really highlight this issue and bring it to a different level, and it's taken a lot of other people to get vocal on that and keep the pressure on, and that's what's happened. And I think we're seeing the outcomes of that. So definitely it feels good to get this one moved past us, I hope.
Okay. Just because we've got those waiver requests past us now, or it feels like we're going to have the finals past us, it doesn't change the fact that we're going through a period of some demand destruction just for energy in general. The fluid fuel is going through some issues, ethanol included in that. But one of the ways that we can make up some of that difference, Kevin, is if we can get E15 out there more readily available. And President Trump tweeted out, hey, let's just make E15 available through the E10. Have you had a chance through the E10 infrastructure, have you had a chance to talk to your ethanol friends about that?
So we've been talking a little bit through this, and certainly had some conversations already with the ethanol industry and our folks as well, and even with parts of the administration to walk through this a little bit, and early stages from an announcement like that. Obviously, there's a lot of hoops to go through to make sure that ability is there to actually happen. Certainly hopeful, and absolutely points in the right direction for increased use of ethanol at a higher level. And it kind of stems back to that E15 announcement. Same thing down there at the Sire plant, of actually the celebration of that E15 being sold year round, but we haven't been able to see that, that usage pick up as much as we'd like. And part of that is absolutely due to the pandemic and due to, like you said, just that drop in general liquid fuel usage. But I believe we're on our way back out of that, and we've got to, we've got to be able to see that, that jump here happening. I think, it definitely, again, a great sign. Appreciate the administration talking about that and bringing that up. We've just got to work through the details to make sure we can do this. And then, as they said, the states will have to make some of those determinations themselves. And we'll work with them to do that.
Yeah, and we're going to have to make sure that all the states are out there pushing it and at least getting it in some consideration in all of the states, including the high population states, not just here in the Midwest. So
I'll be on a call this afternoon with CARB, and so it wasn't about this particular issue, but you can bet that I'll be bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick on this one, Kevin. The WTO ruled this morning that the U.S. was wrong in the way that it levied the Section 301 tariffs against China. It sounds like some technical issues there. The decision is going to get tied up in appeals. I don't think there's any question about that. But we've got to be really happy with the amount of corn that China is putting in the books right now. We're at record pace.
Yeah, absolutely. It's what's going on with China and imports, and part of it is definitely a factor of where our prices have recently been. But you're certainly seeing our prices of commodities come up, and they're still buying, and that's also a factor, of the trade agreement that is in place, I believe, and them trying to make up for a little bit of lost time earlier in the year with the COVID issues, and not purchasing quite as many in the early part of the year that we thought we would see. But certainly now we got exports on fire, and that's what what we thought we would see, and really that's a big thing for all the commodities, and starting to bring up bring that across not just corn and soybeans, but I think you're going to see that help in a lot of other spots as well.
Yeah, hey Kevin, another 50 cents on corn and $1.40 or $1.20, whatever it is that we put on soybeans, it kind of changes attitudes out there in farm country a little bit, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's not, there's certainly a big factor of the weather that's happened on this thing, and don't want to downplay the derecho because that is absolutely a devastating thing to happen. But that's the way markets work, and this thing, causing that supply difference in supply of just those amount of bushels, which is significant. But in the overall grand scheme, there's still a lot out there. But in combination with that, and all of a sudden you see these purchases. Yeah, you've got a whole different demand scenario that's picking up, and a lot of farmers are very anxious to see that. It's making giving them an opportunity again to hopefully get some profitability back in the in that pocket.
Yeah, Kevin, the derecho happened basically on the other side of the state, away from you being in Western Iowa. But I'm sure that you've talked with some of the guys over in the derecho area that lost a bin or 7. What are they going to do for storage this fall?
Yeah, I think the storage issues are extremely they're just huge across the entire state over there. Obviously, they don't have the normal amount of bushels they would have to put in those bins. The other issue you're looking at is this quality problem, and after all the rains last week and a lot of down corn too. I was getting some pictures from a former board member, Bob Bowman, over in Eastern Iowa yesterday, just wondering, he was basically just questioning himself, how is this going to turn out? Sending me a picture of that, and there's a lot of corn like his out there that's is having that that issue on the ground, and when it's like that too, you just can't get the air to it. The wind's not going to blow through it. I think there's going to be a significant amount of quality issues. So that grain storage problem that you're talking about, of not just having the capacity is big, but it's also about how is it going to store it all, and how are you going to get it dried down? So big issues all across with that. I know bin companies are busy, and they're going to be busy for a while, but hopefully they've got a good enough crop that there is something to store in some of those areas.
Yeah, Grassley and Ernst are trying to get some of the tariffs pulled off of steel and aluminum coming into the state of Iowa to replace some of that storage. So, Clinton, I'm sorry, I've been dominating the conversation. What do you got?
Well, while you've been doing that, I've been chasing a little breaking news. Speaking of aluminum, just in, USTR announcing they're lifting tariffs on Canadian aluminum. There are limits on how much aluminum Canada can ship to the U.S. Canada said they plan to announce retaliatory tariffs today. However, because of this announcement, that's likely not to happen. So, we're seeing movement on that front as you speak.
That's great news, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. These things, we've been vocal as well on these steel and aluminum tariffs. We know they've been, a point of contention, not just because of the bins and things like that, but the equipment that we all use takes a lot of steel, and these have been again things that have been holding up some of the trade and hampering some of our agricultural trade markets as well. So good thing for us to hear that as well. I like breaking news when we're on a deal like that. That's great. Keep coming with the positive ones, Clinton.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? And I think Chip hit on it where, a little bit of positive news can go a long way in 2020. And it feels like, here over the last few weeks with a little bit stronger prices, maybe some more shipments and exports to some of our good customers there, that tends to feel like it's tipping things in the right direction.
Absolutely. I think we were really setting up at the beginning of this year for, I think some really good things in ag. And obviously we had some big potential carryouts, and obviously a really big potential acres, that were getting planted and things like that. We ran into some issues. We're not immune to those issues, whether it's the derecho or the drought and things like that. And that's just the things we deal with every day for farmers. But, at the end of this deal, we're looking at markets that are turning around, and a lot of things that we should be able to be positive about moving forward here. So this is a nice to see that going into the fall. That's always a better feeling than kind of your a little more normal scenario when you're seeing prices come back a little bit. So
yeah.
The rising price in the fall is always good news when you're in the combine cap there.
Absolutely.
Hey, Chip, I might ask one last question here. Kevin, what's next for the RFS? Obviously, we're going to be starting a new cycle in 2021. We're still waiting on some obligation numbers. What's next here?
That's a good question. I think the RVOs are really going to be the next spot that we've got to continue to stay very, very vocal on. These numbers, getting them out, also on time and things like that, which create that certainty in the industry, so they know what those levels are going to be. They keep those markets moving. So that's a very, very big portion of keeping the RFS intact and keeping it healthy, and making sure that there's no hiccups in those RVO numbers. So. A big deal there. Obviously, in 2022, that's when the EPA takes over, really a little more control of the RFS in general, and it doesn't go away, according to what some people might tell you. But we're going to build on it. We want to build on further things with beyond the RFS and beyond E15, and talk about higher octane and how we can build that into the liquid fuel market in the U.S. And really, that should be some big opportunities for corn growers down the road.
Yeah, good stuff. How's the relationship with Mexico right now, Kevin?
Well, I haven't learned Spanish yet, Chip, but at least not very well. It's good, as an overall aspect. But I tell you what, there is certainly some tense issues with Mexico, and we've got it seems like. We've got the long-term deal in place with USMCA, but there's definitely some issues around that. And they've got their ag, I can't think of what you call him, but the ag secretary down there is, causing us some issues and some heartburn with some glyphosate issues, things like that. These types of things are going to come up. But now, since that's been in place since I think July 1 there, we're going to be able to use some of those mitigation, or not mitigation, it's not the right word, but the resolution type aspects through that agreement to hopefully get some of these issues worked out and get back on solid footing there. But a market we got to have, that's huge. That's why we were such a big proponent of USMCA and NAFTA, and we got to work with Mexico for sure. And then maybe I will learn Spanish too.
Exactly. Well, we just need Mexico to make science-based decisions on this, right?
We really do. We do that here in the U.S. and do a great job of that, I think, in almost all facets of agriculture. And if we can get other countries to do the same thing, it certainly helps us on a level playing field for trade.
Excellent.
Hey, Chip, so what do you have coming up on AgriTalk this afternoon?
We're going to be talking about the cash market in southern Minnesota. Dan Utek from New Vision Co-op is going to be my guest. Dan, I met him a couple of years ago. We really had a great conversation, and we're going to try to continue that conversation with what's going on up in Minnesota, where they're expecting a really, really good corn and bean crop this year.
That's interesting. I just talked with an analyst about that frost and freeze that we had just, what's it been, about a week ago, 10 days ago? And she was saying that right now they're starting to see some of those plants change color, that it's taken about this long before we've started to see that kind of stretch out across these fields. And so the top part of those plants are dying off. And so, it will be interesting to see what that looks like. Obviously, our condition ratings coming down a little bit, especially on soybeans yesterday from USDA.
That's right. I'm looking forward to talking to Dan about it. Yep.
All right. Well, appreciate both of you for joining us today with Farm Journal Live. Thank you all for watching, and we'll be back again tomorrow to continue the conversation. Have a great afternoon.